When you go to the office, you take your family with you. And it doesn't begin with you. So when we look at the concept of ancestry, it's slightly different from what traditional healers look at, but the origin is exactly the same. So in the end, I'll be talking about consciousness and self-awareness, how the family system works, invisible loyalties, cracking the limits of our conscience, and also connecting self, family, and work. And the bonus is about, which I didn't mention in the notice, is about the black, the woman, the class, the ability that's different, sexual orientation, which was the subject of Twitter on Sunday last week, and how these impact family organization systems as well as the meta system at the continent and the country level. Dehumanization and othering is the main thing that I hope to bring into this discussion. Who are you? To which self do you answer? Is it even a fair question to ask? Some people say, when we approach them, you are not my type, doesn't it? What does that mean? So I took this picture from an Eros point of view. Eros being the love that's shared between two people. In my quest to sense and make sense of work, family, society, the DNA and more. And also touching on a link, you'll see the Human Genome Project and how what we view as science and what is viewed as pseudoscience, tags that we have sort of allocated to fields of study, and how these two converge at some point. My belief is that my identity is multipolar. Sometimes we look at preferred behavior when we look at people so that we can see how they actually behave. Some refer to core personality. The context also is important, because when I'm at a funeral, I don't behave in the same way as when I'm in the church or when I'm at a party. You don't want to see that. And sometimes linked to the praise singing that I mentioned earlier, there is a concept of ukuzuthutha. So when a person asks you, "Uyindokaban," meaning whose son or daughter are you, it becomes a long conversation. So as a Jehovah's Witness, when I go in the field and preach, my white brothers sometimes get confused as to why my "how are you, what's your name" takes longer than them. Because it is a process. When a person starts relating from an ancestry point of view as to where they come from, who gave birth to whom. Yeah, at some point I lived in Malawi, and walking from one village to another would take you maybe an hour or two, a journey that could take you 15 minutes. Because every time you stop at a homestead, people will tell you stories about you, your grandfather, your grandmother, who gave birth to whom, and how many wives they had. And the whole of that process answers to the question, who am I? And it doesn't stop with the DNA as we know it. It also gets to the emotional DNA when we want to know, what is it that I carry as a person? So when we look at the self itself is a system, and it's got systems within it. So when I touch, I'm using the tactile system. I don't know how many of you know Dr. Leonardo Buscaglia. He was known as the Doctor of Love. And I think there's something that we share with the Italians, because in one of his videos he says the Italians don't believe in anything until they touch it. So tactile system is used quite a lot as a means of building intimacy. And sometimes when we talk about professional intimacy, people go wild and they think about sexual harassment and all of those things, but that's not what it's about. A sense of sight uses the visual system, and all of these 7 senses actually allow us to be conscious of ourselves and to also be conscious of the environment and the people that we communicate with. So over here, there's a useful link that you'll be able to click on and look in detail at what these senses are all about. And as I was looking at this, I asked myself, what happened to the 6th sense? Maybe it's the 8th sense now? And I wonder how many more other senses that we do not know about, in the quest to understand and answer the question, who am I? Kingsley Amis says, consciousness was upon him before he could get out of the way. Much the same like Cupid's arrow, isn't it? Before you know it, you have fallen in love, isn't it? Before you can get out of the way. So sometimes it's not possible to be consciously conscious. And sometimes we deaden our feelings for one reason or the other, because we do not want to see, we do not want to feel, we do not want to use any of these senses so that we can have peace. I'm not sure how long that peace sort of lasts. The last one there, Neil Gaiman talks about Idris asking, are all people like this? And the doctor wondered, like what? And he said, so much bigger on the inside. In Isikosa, we always say, meaning that don't judge me by the jacket that I'm wearing, because it means nothing in terms of explaining my worth as a person. So people are big inside. We just don't know it. And sometimes because we've got those cultures that are so dark that they don't allow people to be visible, we miss out on quite a lot with people. To find out what is truly individual in ourselves, profound reflection is needed. And suddenly we realize how uncommonly difficult the discovery of individuality is. It's Carl Jung again. He says there's no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid their soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. As coaches, we always encourage people to journal and reflect. And some of us, we don't like the idea of reflection and looking inside there, because it's not always nice to see what is in there. We would rather ignore it. But it's better to be conscious and know what's going on with ourselves, so that we can see, feel, hear, and use all of our senses to get to know. Because once we know less about who we are, it's like giving over the remote control that controls our soul to other people. I would like to suggest that you are more than what is obvious. You are not just that type that gets rejected or that gets accepted. One of my friends on Instagram said, this type thing, maybe it's the one that causes me to be single. Maybe I should just get a person, not a type. It was quite an interesting kind of observation. Yeah. So you are more than just your DNA, because even that has ghosts. So when they went on the Human Genome Project, they discovered things that they didn't understand about the DNA. And as the saying goes, when we are trying to understand something and we don't understand it, and it has got life, we usually refer to it as a ghost, isn't it? The values DNA is part of you, and blind loyalties sometimes originate from it. The emotional DNA, which is the subject of today, very, very important. So you are part of systems known, unknown, and unknowable, systems and meta-systems that we're going to talk about later. So I am the grandson of Chief Kamanga of the Tonga people. And so on goes the praises from there. From the hills of Gado Bay in Sisia in Malawi. I'm also the grandson of Mbotaza Mirha, father to my mom, Notini, born at the foothills of Stockholm, Enyaka in Bedford in the Eastern Cape. And my grandmother, No Loud, maybe that's why I'm so loud. That's her name, Mzugwana Batil. So that's my name, that's me. So it takes quite a lot just to describe this. But there's more than just that. So how do we then get to understand? So there goes the praises from my mother's side. I would like to ask you a question. What do you understand by this? How do you feel when a person calls you by your praise name?